Welcome back to Money Misfits. I am your host, Professor Heath, and today I have no guests. I literally feel like I'm in detention. But here's the deal. I wanted to follow up my conversation with Dayana and Areefa because a lot of really interesting things came out of that conversation. One, we identified 6 topics that they felt college students want to know as it relates to money. So my next 6 episodes are going to follow the 6 topics that we identified, and I'm going to get to those in a second. But secondly, what was really interesting is 4 of the things that came up, 4 topics that they wanted to talk about are really the 4 things that college students need to be aware of when it comes to building wealth. There is so much information out there as it relates to investing and saving and credit cards. It gets really overwhelming. And in reality, as a college student, it's actually pretty easy. There's only 4 things that you want to do consistently that will have a significant impact on your financial well-being. The first is establishing a routine where you review your spending. Maybe you open up your app and you look at your spending, but we want to be conscious and we want to pay attention to the way we spend money. 2, we want to establish an emergency fund, a set of cash set aside in case of a rainy day. If something unexpected happens, we want something to fall back onto. 3, we want to use our credit cards wisely. When we use our credit cards wisely, we are establishing good credit, and good credit is kind of like our GPA associated with being an adult. And then also, if we're using our credit cards the right way, we're earning rewards. Right? We could be earning money. We could be earning free hotels. We could be earning free airline tickets. But using our credit cards wisely is really beneficial to us. 4th, and maybe one of the most important ones, is we want to invest. It doesn't take a whole lot of money to invest every month for a long period of time in order to accumulate massive amounts of wealth. For instance, I can contribute $100 a month, and I can do that consistently for 45 years. So if I started at 20 and I just set aside $100 to an investment account every month for 45 years, and I earn 12% interest on that, I could have at least $2 million by the time I retire or by the time I hit 65. Okay, so each one of these concepts, 4 to be precise, is what we're going to dedicate the next 4 episodes to, right? So we're going to talk about conscious spending, and we're going to talk about it not in a way that makes it sound restrictive and depressing, but we just want to make sure that, look, if I want to take a trip to Vegas and that trip's going to cost me $1,500, that's my priority, right? I don't want to be spending too much money on DoorDash, or I don't want to be spending too much money at Starbucks. Some of the money that I've unconsciously been spending, mindlessly signing up or going to the store and spending freely, I want to just pay more attention to it so that I can get to the trip to Vegas sooner rather than later, right? So we just want to be conscious about the way that we are spending money, and we'll have an entire conversation. I'm really excited about that conversation because, again, it's not about restricting our spending. It is about making sure that our spending is aligned with our priorities. Then we talked about the emergency fund. And again, the emergency fund, it's something that we have set aside in case of a rainy day. So we could lose a job or something unexpected can come up. We want to establish an emergency fund in case of the unexpected. And usually it's the case that we want to establish an emergency fund that is equal to about 3 to 6 months of our spending. So if I'm spending $1,000 a month, then I'm going to want to have an emergency fund totaling at least $3,000 and ideally $6,000. And that's going to carry me through 3 months of the unexpected or 6 months of the unexpected. And it allows me peace of mind both in that situation, but also just kind of moving through life generally. If I know that I have 3 to 6 months of spending set aside man, that provides a lot of peace of mind. And it also will allow me to tap into that emergency fund rather than tapping into my credit cards, right? So if I'm using my credit cards as a source of emergency funds, then I'm going to be potentially creating sort of a downward spiral. And that is definitely what happened listening to Dayana tell her story about when she lost her job and she had to pay for college with her credit cards. Okay, so the next thing, using our credit cards wisely. It's complicated and it's going to require a good hour-long conversation in another episode. But the high level is, yeah, we want to, if my max credit card limit is $1,000, then I generally want to spend about $300 a month on that, right? We call that our utilization rate, the difference between how much we spend and what our maximum amount that we are allowed to spend is. We want that ratio to be about 30%. That's going to maximize our credit score. And again, our credit score is sort of like the GPA associated with adulting. In addition, at the end of every month, I want to pay off the balance in full, meaning if the credit card bill comes in and it says your total balance is 300, but your minimum payment is 50, we want to pay off the entire 300. We don't want to make just the minimum payment. If we make just the minimum payment, our balance rolls over to the second month and then we get charged interest. And that's where we get into trouble. So at the end of every month, we want to pay off the amount in full. And so the reason we want to use our credit cards, again, is to establish good credit and to earn those points. And we will have an entire episode dedicated to that. And then again, investing. Investing is it can seem so complicated. There are so many terms that are floating out there, so many strategies that are floating out there. However, in reality, investing is actually very easy. And it's really easy to do to get started. Okay, so we're going to have a whole episode, probably a few episodes dedicated to investing. But the first thing is we want to open up an investment account. And then, important fact right here, we want to set up automatic transfer from our banking account to our investment account. Right. So if I open an investment account at Schwab or Fidelity or Chase or Bank of America or Wells Fargo, whatever bank that may be, I want to get used to automatically transferring money every month from my checking to my investment accounts. That's definitely really important to establish. What type of account do I want to open at one of those banks? Usually there's three options: a Roth IRA, a regular IRA, or a general investment account. As a college student, right, we will have this entire conversation. But if you want to get started before that conversation, just choose the Roth IRA. You can't go wrong. Once you have your bank account and then the Roth IRA, or it could be your regular IRA or your regular investment account. But once you have your investment account set up, you choose to invest in the S&P 500 index fund. It's super broad and it's a great starter index fund. It allows you the opportunity to diversify, which is the most important thing when it comes to investing. Maybe not the most important thing, but it is really, really important. Okay? Establish the account, pick the type of account you want to use, and then choose the investment. So I'm suggesting, just to get started, choose Fidelity, open a Roth, and start investing in the S&P 500. And then as you become more sophisticated in your understanding of investing, you can then branch out and do other things. The fifth and sixth things that came up, so fifth item, it's not a habit that we want to get used to. It is something that just is interesting to understand as a college student, and that has to do with financial aid. Student loans, how much you're getting from the government, how much scholarship you might get from a particular school, but just understanding that process so that you better understand how much your education is going to cost and what your student loan payments may look like when you graduate. And then finally, the last conversation that they wanted to have in a future episode has to do with our relationships around money and friends. or money and partners, right? We want to make sure that if I'm in a relationship with a significant other, our spending hopefully would be compatible, right? Many of the leading causes of divorce have to do with arguments around money. And so maybe we want to have conversations in a podcast about how we have those conversations with a significant other. I'm really excited. I'm obviously have many episodes in mind, but at least the next 6, I think I'm super excited about.